right? With Shalawam, this is GMS Louisiana Saints, the New Orleans camp, with another pre-camp lesson. But before we get started, we're going to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to
YAHAWAH, bahasham, Yahawashi, bahasham, Microchip.
Double honors to the apostles and elders of great Millstone who rule and teach well, and peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there pushing this word of truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. And with this pre-camp lesson, we're just going to get into the fact that you heathens, you Edomites are so-called white people, Moabites are so-called Chinese, Ammonites, so-called Japanese, the Ishmaelites, the so-called Arabs, Elamites, East Indians, Hamites, so-called Africans, etc., are about to be judged by Yahawashi, for afflicting the apple of his eye, the children of Israel, who were so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. Because if you can't see, we're living in the last seconds and the last days of the rulership of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And it's only going to get worse from here on out. More pestilences, famines, race wars, civil wars, martial law, World War III, and ultimately those nuclear missiles being shot to the ends of the earth. So we're just going to get straight into it. That's Micah 5 and 15.
This is Micah 5 and 15. It says, and I will execute vengeance of my anger and fury upon the heathen, such as they have not heard.
Such as they have not heard. The Most High is about to execute that vengeance on you. But what's about to come is going to be worse than even the days of Noah. It's going to be, again, just all straight total mayhem out here. And the reason it's coming is because it's time for you to get recompense for what you did to the children of Israel. And you Edomites, Hamites, and Ishmaelites working on the west coast of Africa to take the southern kingdom from there to the Americas for slavery, and you European Edomites during colonialization, taking the Americas away from the northern kingdom and even throwing some of them into slavery. Give me Jeremiah 30, verse 16.
Yeah. It's the book of Jeremiah, chapter 30, verse 16. Therefore, all they that devour thee shall be devoured, and all thine adversaries, every one of them, shall go into captivity, and they that spoil thee shall be a spoil.
Point blank period. And all you heathen nations had a peace to get one over on the children of Israel. And as it just said in Jeremiah 30, verse 16, all they that spoiled us will be a spoil, all they that led us into captivity shall go into captivity, etc., etc. The Most High is going to take you out of power, and then once we get you in our hands in the kingdom of heaven for that first 1,000 years, it's going to be nothing but hardcore, rigorous slavery, where a dog won't be able to lift his tongue against the nation of Israel.
This is Psalms 149, starting at 5. It says, let the saints be joyful in glory. Let them sing aloud upon their beds. Let the high praise of Yahawaah be in their mouths, and a two-edged sword in their hands, to execute vengeance upon the heathen and punishment upon the people.
Hey, let the joy be in their mouth and a two-edged sword in their hand to execute judgment on the heathens, putting you into slavery, beating the shit out of you, taking your women as our concubines, putting your children into slavery, and using, just like the Israelites were used to build up this wicked kingdom of America, we're going to use you heathens to build up the kingdom of heaven, working day in and day out. The only time you're going to get rest is on the Shabbat.
It says, to bind their kings with chains and their nobles with fetters of iron, to execute upon them the judgment written. This honor have all the saints, praise ye the Lord.
And the first ones it mentions is to bind their kings and their nobles with fetters of iron. The very first fruits of slavery in the kingdom of heaven is going to be you Rothschilds, which your original name was the Bowers, which means a peasant or a worker. You're going to go back to what you truly were, the fucking niggers of the earth, the scum of the earth, the lowest of the low. Rothschild, David the Rothschild, Evelyn Rothschild, Rockefellers, Oppenheimers, Merovingians, DuPonts, and hey, the nobles of these other nations as well. Sheiks, prime ministers, presidents, those that survive, etc., cut out just to hear, so that judgment can come out when it comes back on when she gets down the street.
It's the book of Isaiah, chapter 61, verse 5. And strangers shall stand and feed your flocks, and the sons of the alien shall be your plowmen and your vine dressers.
Point blank period. That the sons of the strangers shall be your vine dressers and your plowmen, heathen nations being our slaves. And that's going to be a beautiful day to behold. Because I know a lot of you brothers out here, especially if you're sick, walking around, seeing your people get treated like shit, going to these gas stations or the other stores and having the workers there always keeping an eye on you and just looking at you like the scum of the earth. You'll be walking by and like, say a heathen's walking your way, they expect you to move out of the way. It's sickening. But hey, them days are quickly coming to an end, and a lot of you can feel it in your spirit. You're not really seeing those proud looks anymore. You're starting to see looks of fear and anguish.
When coming with a problem on the Greek.
Beautiful.
This Isaiah 34:1.
Zephaniah 3:8 verse.
Zephaniah 3:8. Therefore, wait ye upon me, saith the Lord, until the day that I rise up to the prey.
The patience and the faith of the saints. Hey, we're diligently and patiently waiting for that day, because though it may seem like it's tearing, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tear. Jacob's trouble, and though it's called Jacob's trouble, it's also going to be the trouble of you heathen nations as well.
Sure. Well, my determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms to pour upon them my indignation. Even all my fierce anger, all the earth shall be devoured with fire of my jealousy.
That I may assemble the kingdoms to pour upon them mine indignation. That main place you heathens are going to be assembled down into is the valley of Jehoshaphat, which in the Hebrew is Yahweh's Shabbat, or Yahweh's judgment, for that war of Armageddon. But we can clearly see that things are heating up in the Middle East and leading towards that eventuality. And when Biden became the president-elect, one of the first things those Israeli gutter rats said is that now that Biden's president, it's looking like Biden's going to be president, hey, war with Iran is looking like more of an inevitability, because Biden seems like he'd be in an administration to try to do deals with Iran, unlike Trump, who was really against Iran. So hey, we got to make a move. We got to get things popping. And we know that once you gutter rats make a move, as it says in Jeremiah 49 verse 20, at least the flock shall draw them out. That's when that match is going to get lit. And these heathen nations are going to really get gathered down into the valley of Jehoshaphat for that great destruction, that indignation on Yahawah bahasham, Yahawashi. And at the end of that verse where it said, for all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy. That fire is talking about that nuclear fire. These nuclear missiles getting shot to the ends of the earth. And everywhere you Edomites dwell is going to get hit with a nuclear missile. The United States of America alone, Babylon the Great, modern day Sodom and Gomorrah, is going to get hit with 200 million nuclear missiles, which is going to turn it into that biblical lake of fire from sea to shining sea, and then a desolate, uninhabitable wasteland that's going to stand as a memorial as to what a wicked kingdom looks like, how not to govern the earth, and what the judgment is for those that afflict the apple of the Most High's eye, the children of Israel. Kind of just one more point. And hey, we already know what it's hitting for, because I'm sure a lot of you brothers have seen that signage on that was on Fox News that said, "Coming to blacks and Indians first, the New World Order." And the elder brother Malcolm did a video saying, "Blacks and Indians first, huh? Like, you really think you're gonna accomplish that great work? No, it's the other way around. It's what the sign should have said is crackers, fucking devils, fucking gooks, fucking sand diggers first in the kingdom of heaven, the real New World Order under the Israelites, the very same people you've had under your feet for the longest time."
This is Isaiah 14, verse 21. It says, "Prepare slaughter for his children for the iniquities of their father, that they do not rise nor possess the land nor fill the faces of the world with cities. For I will rise up against them, said the Lord of hosts, and cut off from Babylon the name, and the remnant, and the sons, and the nephews, said the Lord, and I will also make it a possession for the bitter and the pools of water, and I will sweep it with the besom of destruction, said the Lord of hosts."
And prepare slaughter for his children, which is what we're doing right now. We're spiritually preparing the children of the Edomites for slaughter, because because of the indignation of their fathers. Edomites like to say, hey, it wasn't me, it was my grandparents. Well, hey, I'm sorry, buddy. I got a black friend. But hey, not only are you benefiting from the wealth your forefathers stole, but through the spirit, through the reincarnation, you are your forefathers. So you're spiritually getting prepared for that slaughter right now. And then when the elect get those powers and those new bodies, when Yahawashi returns to save them, then you're going to get slaughtered physically. And we know, as pursuant to Psalms 137, that Babylon is synonymous with Edom. So that's who it's talking about. And when it says there shall be neither father nor son nor nephew, then that goes into the lineage. Your lineage is going to get cut off after that 1,000 years. Because through the male's seed line is the only way a nation can come about. But again, after that first 1,000 years, these other heathen nations are going to be able to leave, they're going to be able to go back to their land, where they're still under our subjection. But the only nation that's going to be eradicated from the face of the earth by fire is going to be you Edomites.
I was over Isaiah.
Oh, come, we'll give that to Samaki.
It's Isaiah 16:6. You know, we always get on Edom mostly, but hey, Edom got a lot of friends, his allies, you know. Fucking Moab, Ishmael, and all them. So they give them loans and money to help them build their communities and shit. So what they do for the nation Israel, especially Moab, the so-called Chinese, they fucking really proud, man. You go in there, order your phone, you goddamn the Chinese restaurant, they look on you like dogs, you know, and they got a nasty attitude. You try to get some extra soy sauce or some shit like that. But you know, Moab ain't gonna get away either.
Hey, in Psalms 83, what does it say? The tabernacles of Edom, then they got Moab, stinky ass right after it, then Ishmael, and it goes into these other nations.
Isaiah 16:6. We have heard of the pride of Moab. He is very proud, even of his haughtiness and his pride, and his wrath, but his lies shall not be so.
Hey, we're seeing the pride of Moab getting taken down right now. Of course, things with the whole pandemic started over in China, and then recently you had a very detrimental monsoon and flooding season that destroyed a lot of their crops. So those Moabites over there are really on the verge of starvation. Well, they're getting to that point of famines. And what's that going to do? That's going to push them to go to war. That's going to push them to go to war, get gathered down into the valley of Jehoshaphat. And hey, even when that whole pandemic started, a lot of these different nations started looking down on Moab, like they looked down on the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, saying, hey, who started the virus? Hey, it's the what is it? Trump even called it the Kung Flu. Yeah. So hey, we're starting to see a role reversal where not only these Edomites get put on the bottom, but you other heathen nations. All these different curses and bywords are starting to come onto you heathen nations that confederated yourself against the children of Israel. And also it says in 2 Ezra 16, woe be unto thee, O daughter of Asia, for thou hast made themselves like unto Babylon. Hey, you want to be just like the Edomites? Hey, you're going to get that same judgment that the Edomites are going to get. That fiery indignation.
This Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 17. It says, be not a terror unto me, thou art my hope in the day of evil. Let them be confounded that persecute me, but let not me be confounded.
Hey, and the elect is not going to be confounded in that day, unlike you heathen nations, because we got the game plan. We know exactly what's coming, and we're preparing ourselves accordingly for it. But you heathens, as well as 2/3 of you jakes out here, you're running around like chickens with your heads cut off. You actually think that taking the vaccines is going to bring things back to normal. Well, hey, there is going to be no normal. What you're seeing right now is the new normal. And the new normal is going to be the kingdom of heaven, where you heathen nations are going to get afflicted heavily.
It says, but let not me be confounded. Let them be dismayed, but let not me be dismayed. Bring upon them the day of evil and destroy them with a double destruction.
A double destruction, that day of great vengeance from Yahawah bahasham, Yahawashi. Worse than the days of Noah or any other horrific point in human history. Worse than World War I, worse than World War II.
Can't get in there, man. Where you from, man?
Worse than the Vietnam
Where you
War.
from?
Yeah. Worse than those atomic bombs dropped on Nagasaki, Hiroshima, you name it. finish.
Just pull your car, man. How you do that? This is Isaiah 34:1. It says, "Come near, ye nations, to hear, and hearken, ye people. Let the earth hear, and all that is therein, the world, and all things that come forth of it. For the indignation of Yahweh is upon all nations, and his fury upon all their armies."
And all those militaries get gathered down to the valley of Jehoshaphat, and whatever other little skirmishes are going to be taking place during this third war.
It says he had utterly destroyed them, he had delivered them to the slaughter.
Hey, there's nuclear missiles going on because there will be nukes going off in the Middle East. These heathens fighting each other with the latest military hardware, and ultimately Yahawashi cracking those clouds and returning in that massive fathership chariot, as it says in 2 Esdras 13, that they were afraid, so afraid, but yet durst fight. You're gonna see this massive chariot that you can't see the ends of, and a righteously indignant so-called black man standing on top of it, looking down at you. You're gonna be so afraid to fight, but the Most High's gonna put the spirit on you to fight. You're gonna try to come at the Most High, Yahawashi, with everything, with your fighter jets, with your tanks, your artillery, your space force, etc., etc. But hey, it's gonna be like shooting crabs in a barrel. There's gonna be no competition. Because that very same hardware and all these different things you got to gain rulership and afflict the children of Israel were given to you by the Most High to catch you up in a trick bag.
It says, "Their slain also shall be cast out, and their stink shall come up out of their carcasses, and the mountain shall be melted with their blood."
Mass death, destruction, and misery.
Here you go, get last. I got one more question. Hey, it says it's gonna be high as a horse's blood. All right, so just think about that, man. Picture a pool of America is in a pool of blood that's taller than us, man. You know how much blood that's gonna have to be shed for all that blood to, basically amount to that? And the Lord gonna stand on his word, all right? He magnifies his word above his name. This 4. It says, "And all the hosts of heaven shall be dissolved, and the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll, and all their hosts shall fall down as the..."
And that heaven being rolled together as a scroll is symbolic for that mushroom cloud after that nuclear missile detonates. Because what does it look like when it goes up into the air and billows into itself, like a scroll being rolled together?
"And all their hosts shall fall down." As the leaf falling off from the vine, and as a fallen fig from the fig tree.
As the brother was saying, death, destruction, and misery at an all-time high, that double destruction. And as I said at the beginning, "Come near ye nations to hear, and hearken ye people." Hey, as we've been saying throughout the video, getting gathered down into the Middle East, into the valley of Jehoshaphat for that ultimate destruction and judgment, as it says.
Joel 3:9. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles.
Which is exactly what the men of the Lord are doing by going out onto the highways and byways preaching this word, as putting up little epistles like this.
Prepare war.
The heathen Gentiles. Yeah, you Edomites, Moabites, Ishmaelites, Ammonites, Elamites, Hamites, etc., etc. And it said, prepare war. Prepare for war with Iran, World War III, nuclear war, battle in the valley of Jehoshaphat, the war of Armageddon, etc., etc.
Prepare war. Wake up the mighty men, that all the men of war are near.
And hear ye people, and come near ye nations. For the Most High has it in for the armies of the heathens that are going to be magnificently destroyed. Oh, come. Yeah.
It's the book of Haggai, chapter 2, verse 22. "And I will overthrow the throne of kingdoms, and I will destroy the strength of the kingdoms of the heathen, And I will overthrow the chariots and those that ride in them, and the horses and their riders shall come down, everyone by the sword of his brother.
And I'll overthrow the kingdoms of the heathens. The Most High, through His Son Yahawashi returning to take the keys to the kingdom out of your hands and put it back into the hands of the rightful rulers, the children of Israel. And you being what you were always meant to be, servants, serfs, and slaves to the children of Israel. Because that's the only reason you were created. As it says in 2 Ezra chapter 6, the world was given to us and everything in it for our sakes. Then why then did these heathen nations rule over us? Yeah, we went off and we got judged by the Most High for it. But the end of our iniquity is at hand. And the beginning of yours is right around the corner.
That's why David said, shall the throne of iniquity last forever?
No.
Well, no. They got a set appointed time, and they'll reach their bounds, but they can't go.
No. That's one that oh, no.
Joel 3:9. Bring ye with among the Gentiles, prepare war, bring up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords, and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong.
And we're seeing all these different nations getting geared up for war. You've got Russia and China building up new nuclear-capable missiles, hypersonic weapons. The U.S. is building up its so-called Space Force. You've got these smaller nations building up their nuclear arsenals, and it's all for you to use it against your other. Use them against each other for your destruction and judgment from Yahawah, bahasham, Yahawashi, where it says, let the weak say I am strong. These little nations out here that the United States of America has been bullying for the longest time, hey, they're not worried about your shit anymore. They see you're like a wounded animal that's about to get put out of its misery. You've got Iran talking big shit to you because they know that if you come against them, you got real quick. You got Iran talking big shit against America because they know that if you go against them, they got Russia and China on their back. And you got North Korea also talking shit to you because they've got nuclear capable weapons now that they say can reach the shores of America. And hey, when that time comes, those nuclear missiles are going to hit the shores of America. That ultimate destruction. Yeah.
This is still in Joel chapter 3, verse 19. Egypt shall be a desolation, and Edom shall be a desolate wilderness.
Hey, not only is Edom synonymous with Babylon, as we're seeing from Psalms 137, but as the brothers read in Joel 3:19, Edom is also synonymous with Egypt. And it says you're both going to be a desolate wilderness and a desolation.
For the violence against the children of Judah, because they have shed innocent blood in their land.
Hey, for the violence against the children of Judah, so-called Negroes of the southern kingdom. And hey, the rest of the tribes as well. The heathen nations, chiefly Edomites, are about to be made a desolate wilderness, a no people again. For what you've done to the children of Israel ever since you came into this little season of your final rulership, beginning with the Renaissance. And hey, also what you did to the children of Israel during Rome, during Greece, and even during ancient Babylon, where you stood in the ways to cut off the fleeing southern kingdom jakes that were trying to get away when Nebuchadnezzar took over Israel.
Joel 3:11. Assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. Thither, because thy mighty ones come down, O Lord.
And those mighty ones are the death angels of the Most High that are holding back the four winds of this destruction, waiting to get the go-ahead from the Most High to release it. And it's going to come when that mark of the beast, the microchip implant, is mandatory to implement it. And with the way things are looking with the vaccine and us moving towards a cashless digital society, that's right around the corner.
Let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Yahawashi, for there will I send to judge all the heathen round about. Put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come, get you down, for the press is full. The fats overflow, for their wickedness is great. Multitudes in the valley of decision, for the day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision.
And that day is very near, and it's going to come like a thief in the night. Again, though it tarry, wait for it, for it shall surely come, it will not tarry. And all praises to Yahawah, Yahawashi. that we're in this truth, and we're in these times, the last seconds of these last days, that many kings, prophets, and great men wish to see the downfall of our enemies and the ushering in of the kingdom of heaven, where those very same people that afflicted you are going to be under your feet. You're going to be able to get your licks back on. Any brothers have anything to say?
It's the book of Psalms, chapter 9, starting 19. Arise, O Yahawah, let not man prevail. Let the heathen be judged in thy sight. Put them in fear, O Yahawah, that the nations may know themselves to be but men.
Hey, that the nations may know themselves to be but men and nothing else. That the nations may know that the only reason they ever got over on the children of Israel was because we went on. You didn't do anything by your own volition. If we were up to the Most High, we never went down. We would have just it would have been King Solomon's rulership and that dynasty going on forever. The heathen still underneath our feet. But hey, we're coming back. We're coming to a time where the kingdom of heaven is going to eclipse even that old kingdom. This kingdom's going to be for eternity. And again, heathens are going to be in the rightful place underneath our feet, knowing that you're just men and not gods, not the true rulers of this planet, the masters of the universe. And that's all she wrote. So with that, we hope you sincere Aki were edified. And as always, we're going to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to
YAHAWAH, bahasham, Yahawashi, bahasham, Microchip.
Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule and teach well. And peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there pushing this word of truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. Abad Babal.
Abad Babal.
Kwam Yasharala.
Kwam Yasharala.
Shalawam.
Shalawam.